The sun beat down on the cracked earth, its relentless heat pressing down on everything below. The world seemed parched and empty, as if it too mourned with Ruth, echoing the dryness she felt deep within her soul. Ruth stood at a crossroads, one path leading back to the familiar land of Moab, the other stretching into the unknown with Naomi, her mother-in-law. The air was thick with uncertainty, and every direction seemed heavy with consequence. Her heart was hollowed by loss, her husband, father-in-law, and brother-in-law all gone, leaving her future as barren as the land beneath her feet. Grief clung to her like a shadow, making each breath feel heavier than the last. Naomi, her mother-in-law, urged her to return home, to seek a new life among her own people, where comfort and familiarity might help her heal. Naomi's voice trembled with both love and sorrow, wanting what was best for Ruth, even if it meant saying goodbye. But for Ruth, leaving felt like abandoning the only family she had left. The thought of turning away from Naomi, who had shared in her pain and loss, was almost unbearable. She was torn between the safety of her past and the uncertain promise of loyalty. She saw Naomi not just as a mother-in-law, but as the heart of her chosen family and the guide to a new faith. Naomi's resilience and quiet strength inspired Ruth, giving her a sense of belonging she had never known before. Memories of her life in Moab flickered through Ruth's mind, moments of laughter, love, and loss. Each memory was a reminder of what she had lost, but also of the love that still remained in the bond she shared with Naomi. Turning back would be easy, but it would betray the love and loyalty she felt. Ruth's heart ached with the weight of her decision, but she knew that true courage meant choosing love over comfort, faith over fear. With a deep breath, Ruth stepped forward, choosing Naomi's uncertain future over her own comfort. Each step was a quiet act of bravery, a silent promise to stand by Naomi's side, no matter what lay ahead. In that moment, she made a silent vow to walk beside Naomi, no matter the cost. The road ahead was shrouded in mystery, but Ruth's resolve was clear. She would not let fear dictate her path. Their shared grief became the bond that would carry them forward. In their sorrow, they found strength in each other, a quiet understanding that needed no words. Together, they would face whatever trials awaited them. Ruth's hope was fragile, a tiny flame flickering in the darkness, but she was determined to protect it. She clung to the belief that even in the midst of loss, new beginnings were possible. Together, they set out toward Bethlehem, carrying the faint light of hope into the darkness ahead. With every step, Ruth and Naomi moved closer to a future neither could predict, but both were willing to face, side by side, bound by love, faith, and the promise of a new dawn. Ruth's memories of Moab lingered, her wedding, laughter, and the warmth of family. For 10 years, two families became one, until death shattered their peace. Naomi lost her husband and sons. Ruth and Orpah lost their husbands. Naomi, emptied by grief, decided to return to Bethlehem, urging her daughters-in-law to stay in Moab. Orpah, with tears, turned back. But Ruth clung to Naomi, refusing to leave her alone in sorrow. In Naomi's God, Ruth found a faith that resonated deeper than anything she'd known. Her choice was not obligation, but fierce love. Ruth's home was no longer a place, but wherever Naomi was, she would not let Naomi face emptiness alone. Together, they left behind the ruins of their old life. Ruth's loyalty became her new identity. Their journey was just beginning. The road to Bethlehem was harsh, each step taking Ruth further from home and deeper into uncertainty. She was a foreigner, bracing for suspicion and hardship in a strange land. Naomi, broken by loss, called herself Mara, bitter. Ruth offered no empty words, only steadfast presence and care. Her promise, "Where you go, I will go," became her guiding light. Ruth sacrificed her past for a future built on love and faith. As Bethlehem appeared on the horizon, fear mingled with determination. They arrived as destitute widows at the start of harvest, dependent on charity. There was no welcome, only the reality of survival. Yet Ruth's resolve did not falter. She had made her choice and would honor it. Trusting Naomi's God, she stepped into her new life. The promise she made was now her purpose. Ruth's journey of faith had truly begun. As the first rays of dawn crept over the hills of Bethlehem, the quiet village slowly awakened. Their arrival in Bethlehem stirred whispers, soft voices drifting through the narrow streets, carrying both curiosity and caution. Naomi returned, but she was not the same woman who had left. Grief had etched lines of sorrow on her face, and her eyes held the weight of loss. The memories of her husband and sons haunted her steps, and every familiar corner of the town seemed to echo with what she had lost. Beside her stood Ruth, the foreigner, quiet and steadfast. She felt the weight of curious stares, the unspoken questions of the townsfolk, yet she did not shrink away. Instead, she stood protectively by Naomi's side, determined to share in her burdens. Poverty pressed in on them from every side. Their home was bare, their table empty. There was no food, no family to turn to, only the hope of survival and the strength they found in each other. The barley harvest was in full swing, the fields alive with the laughter and shouts of workers. But for Ruth and Naomi, abundance belonged to others. They watched from a distance, longing for even a small share of the harvest. Before the sun had fully risen, Ruth rose from her mat, determination shining in her eyes. She wrapped her shawl tightly around her shoulders, ready to face whatever the day might bring. She would not let fear or uncertainty hold her back. "Let me go glean in the fields," she asked Naomi, her voice gentle but resolute. She sought Naomi's blessing, hoping to find favor among strangers and to bring back even a little food for them both. Gleaning was hard, humble work, bending low to gather what others had left behind. But Ruth felt no shame in this labor. Instead, she was filled with resolve, knowing that every grain she collected was a step toward hope. With Naomi's blessing, Ruth set out into the fields, guided by faith and a quiet courage. The path ahead was uncertain, but her heart was steady. Each step she took was an act of courage, a silent promise to herself and to Naomi that she would not give up, no matter how difficult the journey. Ruth was a stranger in this land, an outsider among the harvesters, yet her spirit was unbroken. She stood tall, her eyes filled with determination and hope. Every handful of grain she gathered was for Naomi. Ruth's love was her strength, and she would do whatever it took to care for the woman who had become her family. The work ahead would test her body and spirit, but Ruth's love and loyalty would not waver. She pressed on, never faltering, her resolve shining brighter with each passing hour. As the sun climbed higher, Ruth's new life began with the rising light, a journey marked by hardship, faith, and a heart full of hope for the days to come. The fields were unforgiving. Ruth bent and gathered grain under the relentless sun. Her hands blistered, her back ached, but she worked without complaint. Among strangers, she kept to herself, focused on gathering enough for Naomi and herself. Ruth's humility and diligence set her apart. She took only what was left, never more. Her persistence was a silent act of devotion. Each evening she returned home, weary but grateful, sharing what she'd gathered with Naomi. Their routine became a rhythm of survival and love. Ruth faced whispers and stares with quiet dignity. Her hard work was more than survival. It was a promise kept. In the dust and grain, Ruth built a new life, one day at a time. Her character shone brightest in the fields of hardship. Ruth's path led her to the field of Boaz, a wealthy and respected relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz noticed Ruth's tireless work and asked about her. Learning of her loyalty to Naomi, he offered protection and kindness, inviting her to glean safely among his workers. He told his men to leave extra grain for her and welcomed her to share in their food and water. Ruth, overwhelmed, asked why he showed such favor to a foreigner. Boaz praised her devotion and prayed she'd be rewarded by the God of Israel. His generosity was a turning point, a sign that they were not forgotten. Ruth returned to Naomi with abundance and hope. Boaz's kindness was an answer to their prayers. The promise of refuge began to feel real. Ruth's faithfulness was finally being seen and rewarded. In the quiet glow of evening, Naomi gazed out, her heart filled with cautious hope as she thought of Boaz. She saw in him not just a kind man, but a possible answer to their prayers, a beacon of hope for Ruth's uncertain future. Drawing Ruth close, Naomi shared a bold and risky plan, one that would require both courage and faith. She explained how Ruth could seek Boaz's protection, setting in motion a path that could change both their lives forever. As night fell, Ruth made her way to the threshing floor, her heart pounding with anticipation and fear. The air was thick with uncertainty, but she trusted Naomi's wisdom completely. Quietly, Ruth approached Boaz as he slept, kneeling beside him in a humble and vulnerable gesture. This was more than a simple request. It was a plea for protection, for redemption, and for a new beginning. Ruth's trust in Naomi gave her the strength to follow through. Even as she stepped into the unknown, risking her reputation and her heart. She lay at Boaz's feet, a symbolic act of humility and hope, silently asking for his care and shelter. Startled awake in the darkness, Boaz was surprised to find someone at his feet. He asked, his voice gentle but curious, "Who are you?" Ruth answered softly, "I am your servant Ruth," her words carrying both humility and quiet strength. She continued, "Spread your garment over me," a symbolic request for his protection and care. "For you are a kinsman redeemer," she added, invoking an ancient custom that offered hope to widows like herself. Ruth's request was both vulnerable and courageous, a heartfelt appeal for marriage, security, and a future she could scarcely imagine. In that quiet, sacred moment, she laid her fears and hopes before Boaz, trusting him with her deepest needs. Boaz was deeply moved by Ruth's loyalty to Naomi and her integrity. He saw her bravery and her faithfulness, and his heart was touched. He reassured Ruth, promising to do all he could to resolve the matter and secure her future. Yet, he explained, there was another relative who had the first right to redeem her, and the outcome was not certain. Before the first light of dawn, Boaz sent Ruth home with a generous gift of barley, a tangible sign of his promise and care. The barley was more than food. It was a symbol of hope, a pledge that he would not forget her. Ruth returned to Naomi, her arms full and her heart lighter. Together, their courage and wisdom had set the wheels of redemption in motion. The future, once shadowed by loss and uncertainty, now shimmered with the promise of hope and new beginnings. Now, their fate rested in Boaz's hands as the dawn of a new chapter began to break. Boaz acted quickly, settling the matter at the town gate before the elders. The closer relative declined the responsibility, and Boaz claimed his right as kinsman redeemer. Before witnesses, he declared his intention to marry Ruth and preserve her late husband's name. The people blessed them, praying Ruth would be like the mothers of Israel. Ruth, once a destitute foreigner, became the cherished wife of Boaz. Her life transformed from hardship to security and love. Soon, Ruth bore a son, Obed. The women of Bethlehem rejoiced with Naomi, praising God for restored hope. Naomi's emptiness was filled by the laughter of her grandson. Ruth's loyalty and faith had led to redemption and joy. Their story became a testament to the power of love and faith. Ruth's story didn't end with her own happiness. Her son Obed became the grandfather of King David, placing Ruth in the lineage of Israel's greatest king and of Jesus Christ. Her selfless choice on a dusty road changed history. Ruth's journey teaches us the power of loyalty, sacrifice, and faith. Even in darkness, choices made from love can shape destinies. Her diligence and kindness were seen by Boaz, by the community, and by God. Ruth's life proves that character matters, even when no one is watching. She began as an outsider, but through faithfulness, was redeemed and honored. Her legacy is hope. Our past does not define our future. A faithful heart can transform lives for generations to come.